In this WrestleTalk news, Kyle O'Reilly shoots on NXT 2.0 and why he left. There seems to be some unrest in the AEW locker room, maybe some AEW releases coming soon, and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos so you can acknowledge your tribal Pete and bask in my glory. I get to say that now. Keith Lee liked my tweet, that means we're best friends. Right, Keith? Right?
Support WrestleTalk!
Last September, when NXT transitioned to its 2.0 form, there were rumblings that the roster may be shaken up quite a bit, and what followed was the departures of both Kyle O'Reilly and Johnny Gargano. While Gargano hasn't appeared and wrestled elsewhere yet, Kyle O'Reilly swiftly made his way over to AEW to join both Adam Cole and Bobby Fish to sort of reform the Undisputed Era and continue Adam Cole's seizure of power within the Elite, while Kenny Omega is away recovering from injury. Kyle has then taken some time off for paternity leave as he has welcomed his first child into the world, and he recently spoke with Renee Paquette on her Oral Sessions podcast, including his views on NXT 2.0 and why he left. I thought I had at least maybe 6 months to a year left. It was a real surprise to me knowing it was coming up in December. A pleasant surprise just with the landscape and everything. It was really kind of a blessing that I was given the opportunity to make my own decision. I feel for people who get released and everything, and that happens way more than it should. It's awful. That was a huge selling point too. The AEW locker room is full of the guys that I came up with in this business, that I've been friends with for years, and there was a lot of that in NXT too, but it seemed like every couple weeks you look around at the locker room just getting decimated. It was just not a very good environment, I guess, at that time. Continuing on, O'Reilly explained the simple logic he followed as to why he left the company. "We don't want pro wrestlers," was something I heard, and it was like, okay, well, I am a pro wrestler and I want to be a pro wrestler still, so I'm gonna go where I can be a pro wrestler. And speaking on NXT 2.0 more generally, Kyle mentioned that they might run into a problem in the future. I think people in wrestling are really rare in the sense that you really have to love it. I think that might be an underlying problem in this new NXT. There's a lot of people coming in that I don't think really have that true love for it. I'm sure they'll do well, they'll make a big splash, they'll be a big star and make a ton of money, but at the end of the day, if your heart isn't really in it, I don't know, it's tough. I must say, it's quite refreshing for wrestlers to be able to say no to WWE and go and find success somewhere else, as in the past it was WWE or nothing if you wanted to make enough money to survive on wrestling alone. And I don't just mean AEW either, some of the indies are really thriving lately too, with GCW on the rise, Terminus and other standouts. Yay for wrestling, am I right? However, it's not all sunshine and roses over in the AEW locker room, as there might be a little bit of unrest brewing. Thank you for being awesome pledgehammers on our Patreon page, He's No Jackass, Dano, and the Roller Coaster, Robert Acosta. You can get your own shoutout and loads of extra bonus content by visiting us at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Former AEW Women's Champion Hikaru Shida recently penned an article for Weekly Pro Wrestling, a Japanese weekly publication, and in it she highlighted how she feels that Joshi wrestlers are struggling in AEW, including herself in that category. My feeling is that the hurdle for Japanese women's pro wrestlers to come to AEW has become much higher. AEW is an organization that is constantly changing, and the players come and go very rapidly. At the time of the launch, the women's division of AEW relied heavily on Japanese female pro wrestlers, and that was one of the selling points of the division, but that was only for a while after the launch. Nowadays, being a Japanese female pro wrestler is not as much of an advantage as it used to be. On the contrary, it has become more of a handicap in terms of language barrier, obtaining a work visa, and the corona disaster. I myself am no exception to this, and even as a member of AEW since its inception and a former women's champion, I am struggling to survive in the current AEW. The most frequent complaint since AEW's inception has been its women's division, primarily regarding its lack of focus, matches, and screen time. A few of the characters initially brought into the company also didn't click, as well as storylines with the Nightmare Collective, which I think we'd all rather forget. It's unfortunate that a former AEW Women's World Champion feels like she's struggling to compete against the other women in the growing division, especially because she's actually awesome, but perhaps AEW are taking the right steps to get more talent featured. They got the TBS title now, which was actually defended on TBS this week, and they had 2 whole women's matches on Dynamite this week. 2! I know, that's more than 1. But despite that step forward, there may be some trimming down of the AEW roster before long. Since AEW's inception in 2019, there haven't been many releases of talent at all. There have been a few contracts that have expired, however, with AEW choosing not to re-sign them, one of them being controversial, thanks Tony. But we might be seeing some more contracts expiring before long, as the company approaches its 3-year anniversary. Tony Khan revealed in an interview with TV Insider that he kept a lot of people under contract during the peak of the pandemic, regardless of how much he was was using them on screen because he wanted to give people paying work, which was hard to come by for wrestling during the pandemic where there weren't any independent shows. Really, only 2 places were running and the other place was cutting people left and right. I did want to give some job security to people. However, that's about to change, as he went on to say, now with so many wrestlers coming in, I can't renew all the contracts. I've had to make some tough choices based on ability, fan response, or both. I try to maintain the best roster I can for the company and fans. So we may be seeing some wrestlers becoming free agents before long. However, this week's episode was a corker of a show and the ratings reflected that. Bouncing back from last week's low, this week's episode of AEW Dynamite drew an average of 1.13 million viewers with a huge 0.41 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic, an increase of 18% from last week. This is of course significantly higher than Raw's demo rating this week, but that's primarily due to Raw being bumped to Sci-Fi because of Winter Olympics coverage. We'll have to see if AEW can capitalize on this momentum as they begin the build to Revolution, which is just under a month away. One of the 2 women's matches on Dynamite this week, 2, I know, that's more than 1, was Jade Cargill actually defending her TBS championship on TBS against the debuting AQA. While this wasn't Jade's best match to date or anything, she has been noticeably improving with every week that passes, and there might be a reason for this. As Cargill revealed on an episode of Talk is Jericho, she had been working with Bryan Danielson on improving her wrestling ability, which makes sense, as Danielson is arguably the best wrestler in the world. Tony Khan recently revealed when speaking with Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated that it was him who asked Cargill and Danielson to work together, saying, I think Bryan is the world's greatest pro wrestler, and he has such valuable insight. Jade is incredibly driven, and Bryan's been a great mentor to her so far. But steady on there, Tony, don't make her too good, because now she's got the attention of WWE. According to Andrew Zarian on the Mat Men podcast, people within WWE are 100% interested in signing Jade Cargill after seeing her perform on AEW. Cargill had previously tried out for WWE, but declined their offer to join the promotion as it wasn't enough money, and she would have had to sever sponsorships and relationships with third parties that were pre-existing. Tinfoil hat time! What if Danielson only joined AEW as a WWE spy and is training the wrestlers that WWE want to sign, so then WWE can get wrestlers who are better in the ring already? Wait, no, sorry, that won't work. WWE don't care about wrestling, my bad. And speaking of Danielson, Dave Meltzer on Risk Observer Radio was speculating about his role in AEW going forward and what his plans would be for Revolution, saying, I think Danielson will probably be in a more high-profile match than the face of the Revolution ladder match, but Danielson has been talked about for the TNT title too. Danielson having the TNT title and putting it on the line all the time in fantastic matches against up-and-comers that helps Danielson look amazing, helps the new wrestlers with experience, and we get to see some great wrestling. Sounds like a no-brainer to me. Of course, Danielson is currently wrapped up with his story with Jon Moxley after he offered to pair up with Mox and take some of the younger AEW stars and coach them into the future, which is an offer Moxley is seemingly considering. Moxley then tagged with CM Punk on this week's episode of Dynamite, so maybe he was testing the waters to see what it was like tagging with someone. Maybe. Next week, Lita will be challenging Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship at Elimination Chamber in Saudi Arabia. However, Lita has previously been critical of the Saudi Arabia deal WWE had made, and she explained on Ring the Bell why her opinion has now changed. I was outspoken on the early relationship on WWE and Saudi. Oh, they say they want women to wrestle over there? There's no women on the card. There are now women on the card, and I've talked to the women personally that have been over there, and they're like, it's unbelievable. There are women crying, never thinking they would get to see 2 women be so strong in the ring. They're like, it's really powerful. You're going to enjoy that. And so, sure, do they have a long way to go? Do we as society have a long way to go? Absolutely, but you've got to take the opportunities when they're there. The forefront of change. Now check out this week's What's On at City World with Luke and Dan Layton.
Lovely.
Oh,
Adore it.
it's very atmospheric.
It is, yeah. Ugh, it's a robot cat.
Remember those little dogs?
There'll be a little Funko Pop of that eventually.
Absolutely, and I'll have 6 of them.
It's a massive robot.